Here at home, a sickening story of child abuse. A Valley couple accused of adopting two kids, barely feeding them, and forcing them to sleep naked in the backyard.
And sadly, that is only the beginning of the horrible treatment of these two girls. The couple making their initial appearance in court last night, and we are not identifying the parents in order to protect the victims. The abused daughters, just 13 and 11 years old. A judge set bond in this case at $100,000 apiece. ABC 15's Katie Connor is live with more of the details here. Katie, the living conditions police say just unimaginable.
They are unimaginable, and you get chills every time you read this police report that talks about the disturbing and horrific conditions they were living in. One of the victims, in fact, was living in the backyard of this home here right behind me. In fact, she wasn't even allowed to use the bathroom. She had to use a bucket instead. Now neighbors and parents in the area are upset that they didn't know this was going on. I actually talked to the next door neighbor of the victims who said he didn't even know the two victims existed until about a year ago.
Donnie Drake has lived in his Peoria home for 2 years. He thought he knew his neighbors until his daughters were asked to babysit. Drake thought his next door neighbor only had two daughters, ages 7 and 8.
It was a rainy night. It was a year ago.
When Donnie's daughters went to babysit, they found two older girls, one of them being punished outside.
I called the parents and said, hey, can we bring her in? First they said no, according to my daughter. Now I don't know how true that is, but my daughter was like, no way, we're not doing this. We're not being responsible for this.
But Donnie's daughters took matters into their own hands and brought the oldest daughter back inside.
She was real nervous to come in. She was like, I don't want my dad to know.
Peoria police say this was normal. In fact, investigators say the parents who recently adopted the two older daughters brutally abused them for years. If the girls got in trouble, they were sent to prison, where they were beat, then forced to run outside barefoot on the hot pavement for 60 minutes. The girls then had to write, memorize, interpret, and recite Bible verses. Investigators say the parents said they didn't do anything wrong. They were just trying to punish their daughters for stealing in line. On Friday, police were called. The oldest victim was just 13 years old and severely malnourished. She was just 4'8" and 61 pounds.
And that was the victim who was living outside in the backyard. Investigators compared her health to that of a concentration camp survivor. Police say that her parents recently also, besides having to live in the backyard, made her shave her head, all out of punishment for lying and sometimes stealing food. Katie and Steve, it is important to note that there were 4 girls living in this house, the 2 victims who we talked about, but there were also 2 younger girls living in the home. They appeared to be healthy, and when I talked with neighbors today, they said that those are the 2 girls that they saw playing outside, happy, playing with the neighbor kids. So that's why a lot of them didn't even know that these 2 older girls even existed.
Dan, it just makes you shake your head. Thank goodness they were found, though, because it sounds like those conditions could have endangered their lives. Thanks so much, Katie.